here. I'm so excited.
I watched every oil stick video, so you don't have to. This one's got everything from unboxing and setup to 4 hours of chaos trying to use only oil sticks. I won't waste your time showing every second, but I'll share what I learned so you can skip the struggle. If you're wondering whether oil sticks are for you, this is the video. We'll go over how they layer, when they clump, and how to actually use them in a way that supports your creative practice. I tested this full 24 color set from Phoenix Art Supplies, and this video is sponsored by them, so huge thanks to Phoenix for sending them over. I first got curious about oil sticks when I was working on my child blossom piece. I really wanted that textural feel like Van Gogh's almond blossoms, so I bought 2 Shiva oil sticks, one titanium white and the other yellow ochre, and even shared them in a past art haul video. But I didn't know how to use them properly. I didn't take off the wax layer that was dried up, and honestly that painting became too precious to risk experimenting with something new. So when Phoenix reached out, I decided to finally give oil sticks a real shot. Start to finish, beginner to messy, chaos and all, so let's get into it.
Okay, Phoenix. Lovely. Sturdy box. Oh my god, this is so exciting. Woo. Okay, so, wow. This one comes in a 24 set water-soluble oil paint. This is amazing. What are oil sticks? They are essentially oils in a stick format like this, but what's the key difference is that they have wax in with either the safflower oil or the linseed, and that's what makes them a bit sturdy to become a stick. So they have more wax in them. Then how about soft pastels? Well, they have a different binder in them. They use usually mineral oil, so they never fully dry. So oil paintings, they dry, right? But soft pastels like these, I have a few from Sennelier, never dry, which means that you need to get it framed basically. So these dry, which is lovely, which I was like, oh, that's the key difference. They come in the cylinder cases. It's just so satisfying. Okay, so I'll be swatching all of these. So these come in 24, and the biggest key of Phoenix's oil stick is that they're water soluble. Now, there's a lot out there that are oil sticks, and I heard some are more softer, oily. I hear you can get really messy. These, you don't have to use solvents. There's nothing like that out there at this point, so I'm very interested. Okay, so I like how this one of the girls went like this. It's lovely, it's so fun. Oh my god, do you feel my excitement? And Phoenix water-soluble oil paint sticks combine quality pigments, refined linseed oil with natural white beeswax into a convenient stick form with high coloring and covering potential, excellent brightness and light fastness. So before use, remove the dry surface film with a painting knife. So that's what I need to do. Use the colorless blender stick for achieving smooth, natural color transitions and adjusting transparency. On Amazon, they have the whole spectrum of these colors, like what color, what pigment, index number it is, and opacity and transparency and all that kind of thing. In the 24 oil sticks that they talk about, actually one is this colorless blender, which I just noticed right now. So I'm gonna take off this packaging. Let's just see what this does. Okay, I guess it is just a blender. It is colorless like it says. Okay, so that's one. Okay, that's good to know. The next one up is titanium white. I see. It's glued on, I suppose. Okay, there it goes. Here we go. Ah, that's interesting. I can see a bit of a different color underneath. And you know what? Although they say like this has less waste, people wonder about what do you do with this? I would say even keep it, right? I mean, eventually I feel like I can use it, so I'm gonna keep this. I'm gonna keep it in a different container. Keep everything. Put it into here for now. This is titanium white. Of course, you don't see it. It's oh, that's nice. Huh. I know you don't see it, but that's a nice feeling. It's like stiff yet hard. I don't know how to say it, but okay. So obviously you wouldn't see as much, but I'm gonna do this anyways. I'm going to spread that across. Interesting feeling. Wow. It does feel like oil, but like it's a strange feeling. I've never come across it before. I don't know how to say it. Next one up is, I think, lemon yellow. After I swatch all of these, I am going to scan it with a high resolution and put it up with the names and everything on my blog so you can come and check it out. I always don't like all these packaging, but I know there's a reason they do it. Okay, there's like a tape right there, so it's easy if you can tear that off and then take the whole thing. Maybe I should have worn some gloves. I mean, it does feel a bit tacky. Okay, when you go like this, it doesn't lay so much, which I think means that it needs to be scraped off. So let's just do that right now. A bit. Okay. It does smell like linseed oil for sure. It has that oil painting kind of smell to it. Okay, so now, very interesting. Huh. It's like crayon like, but like it can also go soft. It's like weird. Let's see how this does with water. It is spreading. It feels like weirdly watercolor. Man, this is like such a strange feeling. Like I feel like I'm doing something wrong almost, because it's like, it's so versatile.
So I'd like to do a voiceover so you'll get the full picture of what happened during these swatches. So I would say the yellows, the oranges were absolutely gorgeous to work with in terms of, as a watercolor artist, the versatility of it all was just amazing, because you can create those oil like painterly textures but still create a beautiful wash with water, just water. I'm not using any solvents right here, so that was amazing. I just enjoyed working with it. I love the colors, particularly the orange, which is PO13, as well as the process magenta, PR122, which would be great for flowers, as well as the cobalt violet hue and the ultramarine. I mean, there were tons of colors I enjoyed working with. The only key things that kind of made me think of it was the fact that some of the colors like Viridian Hue, which reminded me of Winsor Newton's aqua green that I absolutely adore, was very hard to create washes with. It was like almost like the oil stick itself, when I pushed it against the paper, was very hard and not as creamy. And bear in mind, I am using watercolor paper, and it didn't really come to my mind, but I'll get to that part later, how you can work around it. But so Viridian didn't really, like create that lovely wash like it did for some of the others. Terra Verte was very hard to create that wash as well. Raw sienna was okay, but once I got to burnt sienna, I started noticing more clumps, like it got clumpier. And this is the case across other mediums too. The earthy pigments are more pigmented, which means that they get more so clumpier than the others. But I just thought, how can I use these? Like there must be a way. So I started using the colorless blender tool, which kind of helps smooth the pigment around. The water didn't. So I eventually contacted Phoenix, and they mentioned to use a primed surface to work into the canvas with these earthy pigments. And they sent an image, and I was like, oh, maybe that's it. But it didn't fully sink into me for some reason. But it was, now to think of it, it was because I was using watercolor paper. Duh, right? I was like so into creating those washes, I suppose, that I totally forgot that at the end of the day, these are oil sticks. They are oils. You don't work with them on watercolor paper. They need to be primed, gessoed in some form. So that was one of the key learnings, or like such a duh moment that I found out later. But also I asked around a friend, Ellie, shout out to her, my artist friend, who said oil sticks were her start in oils and she just fell in love with it. And I asked her and she said, well, you warm up these sticks in order to get that creamy effect and work in with your hands. It's really lovely. Just wear gloves. So I thought, okay, I'll try that. But what really helped, I'll be sharing this really biggest tip that really shifted things for me at the end. And if you want to see these swatches, I also mixed in whites later on at the end of this project, which I should have done first, but all those swatches mixing in the whites will be available on my blog as well.
Interestingly enough, oil bars did exist that are somewhat close to oil sticks back from the 1950s, 1960s. They used to have this thing called the oil bars that are essentially basically really similar, but they were harder. And it wasn't for fine artists, but it was for more industrial things. And eventually, it became a thing. They said, hey, let's make it into a fine art thing. So they made an oil stick in 1980s. And Basquiat was one of the ones who kind of used it for his art. So that's kind of cool. And with oil pastels, they were first invented in Japan in 1925. But Sakura was the one who invented it first. And it wasn't for fine art, it's kurepasu. Eventually, like Pablo Picasso was like, I want something like that has very vibrant colors and creamy. So Sennelier were the first ones who invented a fine art oil pastels, which then became like this. The sizes for the oil paint stick by Phoenix and the oil paint stick by Shiva, they're really relatively close in size, just 1 ml difference. Shiva has 1 ml more of the oil, but the Phoenix is a bit more reasonable in price. So that's the difference. And another difference is obviously the Phoenix is water soluble. Fantastic, you don't have to use solvents, whereas the Shiva one, you'll have to use solvents. And then Shivas were, I think, the first one who created this oil stick in 1980. So they've been around for a while. And the Sennelier oil pastels also come in pretty much the similar size. I made a huge mistake. I thought something like this was coming in my art haul, and turned out that this came when I ordered some more Sennelier oil pastels apart from the set box that I have. But anyways, so this is the size kind of difference where they're really similar. Basically, I want to get into the comparison now. The thing with Phoenix, which is great, is that they have the pigment information and everything you kind of want to look into about transparency and the light fastness and all, but the Shiva oil sticks don't mention any of that. So I find that really helpful. Okay, so let's try kind of comparing these together. So they're kind of like the same color. This is Phoenix Raw Sienna, and then this I'm reminded I need to take out that skin, but I don't want to take out so much because I'm not going to be using this one. Oh, that's interesting. Like this one felt more flaky and like it fell apart, like the skin kind of like fell apart in a different way, like all over the place, whereas the Phoenix one was more together. Okay, so okay, I do see the difference. Shiva is way more creamier than the Phoenix one, that's for sure. Weirdly, I feel like the Phoenix one has more in terms of the volume, but I don't know, maybe I got that information wrong. Anyhow, so let's spread this one out. I am going to use water, obviously, for the Phoenix one, because that's what's good about it, right? But on the other side, I am going to use a solvent just to see how it is different. So here I have a bit of the safflower oil inside. I'm going to use a different brush. And then I'm going to see, there we go. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, it does behave differently, I suppose. They are, yeah, I see. Okay, Shiva is quite heavier and creamier, I would say. So that's the comparison. So that one has the oil kind of done, that has the water, so it does react a bit differently. I'm wondering how it'll be on canvas, because here I'm using a watercolor paper, so I'm sure that would make a difference as well. Let me try out heating the Phoenix once and then layering it. Yeah, it's much creamier now, I would say. And again, you can use this colorless blender that they include in this set. And it feels, when I use this, it just feels more like the oil pastels. Okay, so this one is the Sennelier. This one is yellow ochre. I mean, it's more buttery, isn't it? Yeah, it's buttery. So I would say the Shiva is more kind of like consistency wise, and the opacity wise, it's more like Shiva. Those two are really similar. Just that Shiva is oil, right? And the Sennelier oil pastel is oil pastel. So yeah, but they're creamy. But this one, yeah, I just can't get rid of that fact that it can be water soluble, so that's great. Maybe that's the reason why it's not as rich and creamier compared to, like, say, Shiva. The techniques that I showed you here weren't enough, so I quite like to get into showing you more. Now that I kind of got used to using them, or at least I have more kind of thoughts on it. First, I want to create like a wash. So what I noticed with these is that the great point is about how it's water soluble, which I don't see on the market. I don't know if you can tell me if it's out there, but at this point in 2025, I don't see anything that is like artist grade material that actually is water soluble in a stick form. This was a wax that I cut out because when you're using these, the wax on the outer layer gets really stiff, so you'll need to cut them out with a palette knife, which I explained in the last video. And here I am trying to get a thin wash to kind of lay over here. So this paper, I've gessoed it with golden acrylic gesso from this line onwards here. And here it doesn't have any gesso, and I just wanted to see what the difference is like. Because here I'm using like a watercolor paper. It's Arches 300 GCM. So just wanted to see how that goes really. So I'm just gonna create like, look at that lovely color. The color here I'm using is PR 101. It's called light red. And I am a huge fan of PR 101, sometimes called Indian red. But look at that. I think in my last
part of the video that I took on Thursday. I think I was like, wow, it's clumping, it's not really smooth. But I think putting it into like warm water does help. I wonder if I can even make it darker right there. But I think you can see that it's very hard to, I guess not. I guess it's just a matter of getting used to the medium, I suppose. I thought I can't really create like different values with these, like you can with watercolor, you know, but I guess you can, and you can get very light right here. So that's basically, as a watercolor artist, that is nice. I really like that. The fact that you can create washes like that. And then here I want to create another wash, but this time around it has acrylic gesso in the background. That's just a key difference. I just wanted to see how it behaves differently in such situations. And Phoenix did mention that you can even directly apply this, the piece of, I mean, this is wax. This is something you just toss over, thinking you can't like use it. But look at me. I put all of the cut up waxes into this container because I thought, wait a minute, if it's water soluble, maybe it's usable again. You know what I mean? So, and it does clump a bit, but I mean, if you keep on working at it on to the surface, I think it's doing its job. And even with watercolor, we do get clumps here and there, and then you just need to kind of move them around. So that's not like just this characteristics of these oil sticks. I think I like it. It's really nice. Looks like some granulation happening here. Look, I added a bit of water. That is excellent. Just to let you know, these were the things that I kind of had around that I found quite helpful and handy. So this is something to put in my safflower oil, just in case if I thought I needed to like build up those paint but needed a bit of oil. And then Gamblin. And then these wedges, the catalyst wedge, to kind of move the paint around once you've laid down more thicker paint. And of course, palette knife, and then some brush, and a palette, like a mixing area. So I've got these disposable ones. Now that I have more, more understanding of this medium, I want to show you like just a bit of play, experimentation around using these water-soluble oil sticks from Phoenix. First, I want to kind of see what it kind of feels like when you use these oil sticks with fingers, because that is something I didn't quite do in the other video. I think the first part of the video. Let me see if it's... I think it's okay. Yep. So I'm gonna smudge this. I'm gonna use the orange because I just love this orange. And let's see what it kind of looks like when you blend it with your hands. Okay, so maybe I should have cut it, but I think it's okay. It's been 5 days, but yeah, maybe I can even put it into the warm water, see if that makes a difference. Okay, and then, so that's fingers. And then next I'm going to show you a palette knife application. It's a bit wet, but let's see. Cut it off like that. Okay. Oh, that's so satisfying. Okay, and then the blending tool. Now, I haven't seen this in the other oil sticks from other companies. In the 24 set, it's actually 23 colors really, and then it comes with this colorless blender. That's it. It's 000 because it's basically no color. But what I do believe it is just basically without the color, and this is what creates these sticks. So it's a mix of probably wax and the oil put together, and this blends. So let's see how it kind of blends. So I'm gonna lay that down. I'm using the orange, it's PO13, but I tend to love oranges, so. And then this is the blending tool. And look at that. That's so strange. That is so strange. Maybe I was using it the wrong way, or maybe it's the paper, but this feels like way better than how it felt on a watercolor paper. So I suppose having the gesso kind of, and maybe even tipping it inside the warm water kind of helped maybe I live in a cold place and that's why, but it kind of made it softer. So that's the blending tool that I used, and look how it kind of moved things around. Next, I'm just gonna show you how you can use it with the brush. Well, I already pretty much did it for the washes, but let's see. So say I was to kind of go in like that, and then, so the brush does have a bit of water, but look at that. I'm not using any salt. Oh my God. Okay, hold on. That's so funny. Maybe it was like, I just felt like it wasn't really movable. Like it didn't move around with the watercolor paper and it clumped. But I think now I get it. Basically with the watercolor paper without any kind of like harder surface to protect the paper, I think it might have like created those clumps because it's very delicate. This is changing everything. This is amazing. Okay, I take back my thought on it. I'm going to mix and blend, so I'm going to use this orange because on my next piece, I'm kind of thinking about using this orange as well as this light red. So let's get the palette. And this was a wax piece that I kind of cut off when it was too hard. But let's see how that works. It's not the best thing to do, but let's see if it works. So mixing and blending, and essentially I just want to see, okay, that's not a good idea. And take it back. Wax is wax. Okay, it's hardened. So for washes, I think it's okay, but probably not the best idea to use that for blending. Okay, and then maybe I need to warm this up a bit. So let's see how color mixing is like. So here I only use these two sticks to just kind of do its own thing, but let's just use water, see how that goes. Okay, this is fun. Look at that. Okay. I only use water, no solvents at this point. That's so weird. Okay, so then my next thing is, so the problem is, and I want to create a color that I like. This is how you scrape off the wax because that outer layer is hard. And I'm gonna use this for a wash. Okay. And then I am going to dip it in for a while, just warm it up a bit further. So what I was trying to say is that I tend to love using like not colors directly from the paint, but mixing them. So I want to see if I can basically create like a nice wash, like just blending it directly on the paper or on the canvas. And one cool thing to kind of know is that these tubes that you want to put back your the oil sticks, they don't have like the English name that they have right here on here, but you can always look at the number. It's 408 and it says 408 at the end right here. So that's like a good thing to kind of keep in mind. And then I am going to, maybe I'll even blend a bit with the blending tool. What I want to do is create like this lavendery, say purple with this, but basically I have to add white, right? Essentially. So I want to see how that goes, because I'm definitely not gonna use this kind of purple for my painting. It's just not what I enjoy using. So I am going to try to see what I can create. So adding a bit of white. So here I use the wax to blend out the color, but I also I'm mixing in some whites here to see what that does. Even use water as like a solvent. See how that goes. That is amazing. Okay, and I want to kind of desaturate this color, so I am maybe even gonna just dip in my brush into that red. See if I can use that. Ooh, I like that color. Oh, yes, please. That is nice. Okay, I'm like, okay, I think I love that. I guess you'll need to then dry this this layer completely to then go over on top of it with like another oil stick and color. Let's just lay on top of here, see what it looks like. Ooh, look at that. That's really nice. That is fun. Okay, I take it back. These are amazing. I wasn't too sure, like I had a huge like learning process. And I'm almost considering maybe I need to prep my canvas for this with additional layering, because I really enjoyed working on it when it was prepped. And Phoenix did send me their canvases, but I wonder if that will change. Maybe I might even do that actually. I'm thinking about doing the Basquiat piece. I want to do a study of it. I do know for a fact that Basquiat used oil sticks to create his paintings here and there, so I want to do that because it makes total sense to not cover the whole area, but to go in that canvas with the oil sticks because it's a drawing tool, right? So that's what I want to do, so let's get rolling.
Let's see how this kind of lays on top of the other. Interesting. So I did see a lady do this same exact test, and it works better if it's the oil sticks on top of the oil pastels rather than the oils pastel on top of the oil sticks, which is kind of interesting. So if you were to want to do a mixed media for some reason, I don't even know why you would do that with this particularly, because the whole point of using an oil stick is it dries, right? But if you use it with the oil pastels, it wouldn't dry. So I don't know, it's like, why? But anyhow, if you were going to do it, then I would probably do the oil pastels first, and then lay on top of that the oil sticks.
To wrap this up and tell you all the valuable information that I have so far using this for the past 2 weeks now. So first of all, you only really need these. This is the only thing you need. The water, the butcher's plate kind of helps when you want to put those sticks out. Once you get them out of this case, it gets quite messy, so you want to put them inside this. And then a brush kind of helps here and there, and a palette knife, and then kitchen paper towel. Now, these towels work better when the sticks are wet, but if they're not wet, they could be a bit difficult to wipe around, which then I use the cloth instead, like rags around the house, because they are oils, right? And then water is only the thing you need, really, because I was amazed. You don't need solvents for this. It's really true. So one of the things I realized later on was that on the cylinder, they only have Chinese name of the oil stick, but they have the number. So here at the last 3 digits, it says 301, and it says 301 here. So you can always find the case that it belongs to, but not the top. The top, you'll have to place it near it, or I just stick them back in once I got the oil sticks out. And the great thing is that these Phoenix oil sticks, they have the pigment number, the pigment name, and then the opaqueness, light fastness, and then the pigment index number right here. And that is not the case with Shiva's. So that's great. That's excellent. Another thing is that when you do take off the layer of these papers, it was so much easier than Shiva oil sticks, which I really appreciated, because when you're painting and getting intuitive and all, you don't want to have to like be having hard time taking off that layer to then go get into painting. Top 3 tips that I would share about these that I often read in the reviews, like marked as badly rated, was number 1, I already knew from the start, is that you need to take off the wax that's hardened at the top, or else you're not getting the full potential that it has. And you can use those for layering washes, so keep them. Number 2, use warm water if you don't have that butteriness to these paints. I've noticed the hard way after doing my first painting. I then realized I could just tuck them inside like warm water, and then they'll be buttery like I want them to. So that's 2. Third, they need to be worked on gessoed prime surfaces. So I used watercolor paper, that's why it clumped a lot. So don't do that. And I didn't use the whites in my swatching, so I did that at the end, because with oils, you want to know the full range from dark to light, right? By adding white. I'm such a watercolor artist that I just did the washes, because that was like the key element of these oil sticks, that they were water soluble. I'll have this on my blog, you can always check them out. The drying time, I would say typically in my area, it was like the watery washes dried up in 1 day, whereas for normal applications, usually around 5 days. And then for really heavy strokes, like this rose that I did, was about 7 days. And it doesn't come on my finger, but it's still, you know, like those thick texture, wettiness. Okay, so this was a gesso prime surfaces. I really enjoyed working on it. The cool thing with these oil sticks is that they layer, obviously. Unlike watercolor, you can't really go very light color like yellow on top of a very dark purple, so that was amazing. I really enjoyed that. The texture is wonderful. You can create washes like almost like watercolor right here. I mean, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between watercolor or that it's an oil stick. So that was wonderful. The key learnings from my painting, let me tell you. So is it true that using oil sticks are not good for covering big areas? Yes and a no. So this one I really struggled, but the key struggle for this one was first I was just getting again the hang of using oils. You gotta go from lean to fat, which I didn't do. I used safflower oil. I had to take that off and work on. And then I forgot the drying time. Things need to dry in order to put more oils on. So that I completely forgot again. So it was a learning process, right? Because I didn't know at this point that using warm water to put in those paints will help me, I kind of like really rubbed it in, and it took me so much time that I used solvent-free Gamblin gel to move things around, which helped, but it didn't really help to the extent I wanted to, until I realized that I could just use warm water or hot water to create that butteriness, so it goes on much more faster. So that was like a huge learning for me. And that first painting wasn't primed, so it could have been partly that reason, I don't know. But the final piece, I just thought Basquiat used oil sticks, so why not do a Basquiat study? So I created my version of Basquiat's Writing Death, but a woman version, a Frida Kahlo kind of feel to it. So yeah, I really enjoyed working on this piece. It's almost like because I did all these explorations, did my first painting that was a total mess, I just feel like I nailed it down here. So you see, these strokes right here were created because I used these oil sticks. You know, you can't really create those textural feel, I think, just by using paintbrush. At least it's not easy. So I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the aspect that I can just use water and it becomes a solvent, it'll move around. Warm water, that's key. That was great to kind of do. And when I felt like, yes, this is the moment that they shine, is when I started sketching the outline of these and working in like relatively big areas. So I felt like, it's so intuitive. I didn't have to think too much, and it was like sketching and so forth. So that's when it shines. Where it didn't shine is obviously going inside the details. So here you can see that the strokes weren't as like thin enough to create a lot of different linear width. And so that was a bit hard, so I had to eventually use like a thin brush for it. And then for these, I had to mix in the colors on a palette, which doesn't really make sense. I don't get the fact that you have to take these, cut them up, and then, you know, make a certain color to then apply them directly. So if you're like, I have a budget, but I want to get oils and I want it solvent free, I want to be able to create washes, go for this, definitely. I think for me, it makes sense to use it for the underneath layer to sketch and so forth and create these strokes, that's okay. But for the final layering, because I like subdued colored, I probably need to use those colors that I do like just directly from the oil stick, as in maybe I'll use this processed magenta because that's my favorite color, even this cobalt violet hue, and then just mix it up with like white or something to then adjust it around. But that's the feeling that I get. I mean, I use tons of this light red. There are certain colors that I'll definitely use for the final application of a painting. But like, you know, say yellow, it's not my favorite color, and then I'll have to mix that in with other colors to then create a different color. But knowing that warming them up and you can even blend them and have fun on the surface and blend them together there, I don't know, things might change. I might see it differently. But I wouldn't necessarily buy these to chop them up to then create a creamy texture on the palette and then apply it. It just doesn't make sense to me. Okay, so happy painting. I hope you have fun creating with these oil sticks, because I sure will.